Welcome to this live show discussion where we are talking about like a love story. Um, Hello. There's nobody watching.
Welcome, they're coming.
No, I know. That's why but I was like, I don't know what to say now. Okay. I guess like we can go around and just kind of introduce ourselves and maybe say what we rated the book. Is that how we start these?
I think so.
Okay. Well, I think you know me because you're on my channel, but my name is Sasha. I am the redhead reader on break right now. But I gave this 5 stars. This is probably one of my new favorite books of the year.
Oh, fancy.
I know.
The Whiners books are doing well for you, except the last one, but it's fine.
Oh my god, I forgot what the last one. I like blocked it out.
Okay.
I was like,
We've all forgotten.
okay.
Anyways, hello.
Hi.
Oh,
She's
Rachel.
here.
Hello.
Rachel, late?
It's never happened before in my life.
Anyways, of course she's trying to interrupt me. My name's Darian from the channel Darian Reads, and I give this 4.5 stars. So,
Hi guys, I'm Jess. I'm hijacking the Whiners discussion tonight. I gave the book like 4.5 stars too, I think. Been a while since I've read it, but I really liked it.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi. Is it me? Hello. Amanda. From Gingernaut Reads, and I rated this book 4 stars. Success.
I'm Rachel from the channel Let Me in the Library, and I gave this book 4.5 stars.
Wow, success all
Success!
around.
look at us.
I did it. I picked a book we actually all liked.
Is this the first time this has happened?
There will be absolutely
it
no
is.
discourse at all.
Oh my
Oh, no.
All right, quick, someone come up with something they didn't like about the book. We'll talk about it for an hour.
Oh, trust me, I have some things.
I have some things too.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Like I loved the story, but there are definitely aspects of it that I was like, bitch.
Mhm.
But
Exciting. Tell me
we
more.
all liked the book. It is surprising. Lisa also liked it.
Oh my
Very
gosh. Look at us go.
It's good.
Good job, Sasha. You did it. You broke the Whiners curse officially.
Thank you very much. Do we want to just kind of like say what it's about? I could do like a brief
Recap.
summary of what it is. So, Like a Love Story is about Riza, who is an Iranian teenage boy who had just moved from Toronto to New York City during the AIDS epidemic. Yeah, I know, but like my brain everywhere. AIDS epidemic, and he meets these 2 people. One is a plus size, very quirky girl who doesn't have a lot of friends, and the other is the only out and proud gay person at their school who happens to be best friends with this girl. And then Risa is a closeted gay person, and he ends up dating Judy, the girl, just to kind of hide who he is. But he actually likes her best friend, Art, and it's about that. Pretty much all it is. Yeah. Drama.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Drama.
Yeah.
What was everyone's favorite part of the story?
Steven.
Well, yes.
Yeah. Totally valid. Steven and all of his friends were like, they were pretty cool. I like them.
Love that.
I loved Steven, but I think especially there was a part where they were talking with a drag queen, and I think she was saying, like, you know, everyone keeps coming up with all these like labels and things to be upset about with it's basically saying like, you know, representation is one thing, but safety is much more important. And I feel like that's not something that we ever really see that often, because a lot of the conversations around generally like queer representation, it's usually just saying like, we need more queer representation, but we don't really talk a lot about the safety of those queer people, which we've like somewhat seen a little bit in the book community, where people will say like, you can't force an author to out themselves for own voices rep. So like kind of in that way where the drag queen was saying like, I don't have the book in front of me, but like, you know, these things are great, but that's because you're young, and when you're actually experiencing this stuff and you know what this is like and how dangerous it can be, then you'll realize that like there are many, many different ways to fight this battle beyond just representation media, which is one avenue, but there's a lot more out there.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot. I feel like I have that trouble with a lot of like YA contemporary books. They put such an emphasis on like coming out and how your life is better once you come out. And like that's not necessarily true for everyone. And I think that is almost kind of a dangerous message to push all the time. I think it's true in a lot of cases, but safety of queer people is a big issue. And I think it's kind of brushed under the rug, like you said. So I liked that this book talked about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think like the author, like he brought in a lot of like interesting conversations and topics that I hadn't really read a lot about. Like AIDS, like I've not read a book that went like so in depth about AIDS and the AIDS epidemic in my entire life. And I had volunteered at an AIDS hospice when I was a lot younger, and it was very, very brutal. But I was around a lot of these people who had, you know, how Stephen was described, how everybody was described, and it was really powerful and really realistic to what I saw. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's also so different from the kind of media that I think we more generally consume, because we're used to usually consuming things that are contemporary or maybe fantasy or something like that. But, you know, this is contemporary in the sense that it was the last 50 years. But in the 80s, it's such a different lifestyle to be openly queer versus today. I mean, like, it's been 40 years about since then. And in that amount of time, we now have a lot of role models that you can look up to, or say like, these people broke tradition and they did this and they did that, so I can too. But back then it was really like, hey, if you're gay, it's highly likely you're going to contract this deadly disease and die, and nobody cares, and there's nobody out there for you to look up. Like, they had Madonna, but like Madonna was like one of those like straight queer figures, kind of, where it's like not really like, here is a gay role model that is openly gay and allowed to say it on TV and, you know, anything like that. So it's just you know, like, it's a real reality check to read something like that and be like, oh wow, like, we are extremely fortunate, despite the many, many difficulties that still exist today, to have all of that history behind us, so that marching forward you have, you know, like the stones that these people paved for you, and you don't have to make them yourself. But back then they had to do that. They had no choice, or they had to just stay in the closet, which is very hard. I mean, like, I know this was also kind of a frustrating read in a lot of ways, because these are young characters and they sometimes do things and you're like, just talk to each other, just communicate. And I know that's a problem you had, Tyrion. But I mean, like, in a way I was kind of like, this is good because it's kind of realistic. Like, it's frustrating to read about, but it seems like, yeah, I do think characters would probably react this way, and they would lash out and they wouldn't understand the way that the other people are feeling. And I think, like, we probably have become a lot more empathetic in this year than anybody was that long ago about something like this, because it wasn't talked about the same way. Because even looking at the way that Judy's mom was saying, like, oh, I can't talk about your Uncle Stephen to people. And so we just say, like, oh, he has cancer. But nobody will actually say, like, hey, this is a gay man with AIDS. Like, they were very, very, like, touchy about certain things that they could say and not say.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Okay, someone else talk.
That's what made me emotional at the end was the history part and how far we've come, and just
Yeah.
it got me at the end.
Yeah,
But I
so
also volunteered at an AIDS facility in Philadelphia, and yeah, a lot of the things we had talked to so many people that were alive during that, and there were people even today that were suffering. I think today, I think people think that nobody's really suffering anymore from it. They think it's kind of like past back then, but there's still people, and it's very prominent still. It's just nobody talks about it. So that's why there's things to talk about. That's why there's a volunteer place for that. People need to be educated about it, young people, because it's still going. It's not
and
like it's just disappeared.
there's still really not a cure for it. There's just ways to mitigate the symptoms.
yeah.
So there's definitely lots of people living with it. I think there's now a couple things that are kind of preventative measures from even getting it in the first place, like PrEP and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely still a devastating disease.
Yeah.
How do we feel about Rita and his friends, the friend group that he made? How do we feel about them?
I didn't like Judy.
Really?
I didn't like Judy either.
I mean, I liked her at first, but then she started really pissing me off. So
Yeah.
Oh, I liked Judy. I thought she was
like Judy.
realistic.
I didn't like Art that much.
Art.
Teeny, tell us more.
Art. I loved Art.
I can understand why Judy bothered people, but I definitely understand her perspective of things a little bit. But Art, I found him to be a very, very self-centered person at times. And I found all of them were. Everybody in the story was self-centered at some points or another. But there were just certain times where Art was like, I am the only person with problems. Therefore, I am the most sad. And it's just no. Other people have other things going on too. Your problems are important and need to be addressed, but so do your friends. And it's really hard to be, a supportive friend to somebody who isn't a supportive friend in return.
Yeah.
And that goes for both ways for Judy and Art, because Judy at times was not a supportive friend to Art. But at the end of the day, I thought Art was just very, very selfish and very
Well, part of it was also that he came from such a wealthy family, and then he was just like, I'll spend their money that they're bribing me with to stay away from Steven, and then I'll just break my promise. And I was like, good for you. But you're also like, I have the most problems. And I'm like, you just got a check for $10,000.
No, literally, that's literally the
but
vibe.
money doesn't buy your
No, it doesn't,
mental
but-
health.
It definitely doesn't.
No,
And
but not a single one of them were in good mental health. But Art was like, I am the worst. I have the worst depression of all. And it's just how about you think
okay,
about...
but I will say that's peak American queer culture. Where it's just I have the most problems right now. You have to listen to my problems now. You have problems, but listen to mine. It's very, I was like, I agree. However, you're being kind of a jerk. But
I think also at the age they are too, it does feel like that. When you're 17, it does feel like no one else has ever experienced the sadness
that is very true too.
before.
Yeah.
That is definitely true. I don't know. There was just something about Art and his personality that genuinely bothered me, and I feel like we can get into spoilers now. It's been 15 minutes.
Yeah.
There were a lot of times where Art was very pressuring toward Rita and to have, sex, and Riza was still very new at accepting his sexuality, and he was still kind of figuring it all out, but Art was like, I want to do it, I want to get it over with. And I felt like there were a lot of times where it was just you need to, be present with this person.
Also, the fact that, like, first of all, if you've never had sex and someone's pressuring you to have sex, that's problematic. Number two, if you're like, hey, if I have sex with you, we'll die, and then your partner's like, it's okay. It's like, hold on a second, like.
Yeah, it's like, I'm 17. I'd like to live longer. Okay, like, I don't know. It just, thank you.
Yeah.
It just made me feel uncomfy. Like the whole time I was reading it, I was like, ugh. And then when they actually did do it, it was the day after Stephen died, and I was like, I know we're grieving, but what are we doing here?
It actually bothered me a lot that there was so much. I mean, I know it's supposed to be a story like that has everything, and this is coming from someone that loves smut. Okay, like give me it all. But I felt I didn't want it in this one. Like I really got. I was really
It felt
done. I was like, can we stop
uncomfortable.
talking about sex all the time? It's not your relationship isn't all sex. Like, can we not like? This is not how a relationship is supposed to go. Like, just talking about sex 24/7.
And like I do, like as a teenager, like I kind of understand where they're coming from, especially if it's like their first time and when like they didn't think that they were going to find somebody to do it with that quickly. But Art like really bothered me with how pressuring he was and how like he made it really gross. And I just didn't.
Because that's the other thing is like I feel like Reza was basically just like, let's just hold hands and be cute. And Art was like, okay, if we can have sex afterwards. And he was like, hello, my man, that's not what this is all about. So like,
yeah, it was that's like the main issue I had with Art's personality was how icky he was about sex with Reza, because I feel like the whole time it was like one-sided. And I just didn't like it.
Because even when Reza was like, oh yeah, I do want to, I was like, do you? Because you feel like the entire time that we've been in his head, he's like he's constantly like cleaning himself and just being like, if I even think about it, I might die, because he has no idea how it works, which like speaks to the way that there was no education about it whatsoever. And even today, like it's not really common knowledge anyway. So, I mean, not in the same way, but think about the current panini that we're in, where it's like when it first started, everybody was like, wash your hands, oh my god, if you look at that person, like, oh my god. But it's like that, and then targeting an already vulnerable group who already has a hard time coming out and already has like a million things on their back. Their dad gave them $10,000 and they're going to blow it and they're still going to have problems. Like, these people have problems. And then it's already like, hey, if I even have feelings like this, which I'm already fighting to not tell my family in Reza's case, it's like, this constant fear of death. And the idea that like, hey, if you have sex, at least you'll get it over with and you'll just have it. Like, like it doesn't seem satisfying in that way. So like reading that scene where it was like, all right, we're finally going to do it, I was like, no.
And how, like, my question is like, are you saying Reza?
The way that like Reza was thinking about like, I'm going to die if I have sex.
Like the way that he, like it was right after Stephen's funeral and he had been dealing a lot with how, he felt like he was going to die and all this stuff. So I feel like that's like the least appropriate time to do it is when he actually like watched somebody deteriorate from this condition. And then he was like, you know what? Now I'm good. Now I'm ready. Like final stage, we figured it out. We're good. And then he's just like, okay, let's bone. And it's just like, I don't think so. I don't feel like that's very realistic. And I feel like it did stem from a lot of pressure, and that's.
Yeah, I definitely got the vibe that he was being pressured, which I don't even think was really discussed in the book. Or
it wasn't.
At all. I mean, in a sense, like from a very objective standpoint, then you could be like, this doesn't make any logical sense. But I also think that like when you're grieving, you kind of just become very numb, and even things that scare you, you're just like, whatever, I'll just do it. But also like if you see someone doing that and then they're like, fine, let's have sex, it's like, no, like don't. Like you shouldn't be in a vulnerable state.
Yeah, exactly. Like vulnerability is a huge part of consent. And when somebody is super vulnerable, when two people are very vulnerable, it's really hard to have a
like true consensual
consensual and
relationship.
Like, fully.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Okay,
It
but
bothers me. It still
also,
bothers me.
I feel like it's hard to believe that the day after. I mean, I think it's very unrealistic to say that even art would be. Oh yeah, my uncle that I love so much. Well, not my uncle, but you know, the man in my life who I
Pretty
love so much. I'm just gonna like. That's just not something you think of or even want to do when you're
Yeah.
a day later. I would be like, let me have a month.
Because I mean,
absolutely
like,
not.
Steven was like Art's favorite person in the world.
Yeah.
Like, he was the only person that he looked up to in that way, and he was like he was a home for him, and then he dies in such a sad way, and then he's just like, anyway, like, it's just, I don't know, that turnaround doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
For me, with all that, like, I can appreciate, like, you know, in the time that they're living in, like, you know, they don't want this disease to stop them from doing what they want to do. And like, clearly this was important to Art, but like, especially me being who I am, like if someone brought up wanting to have sex that often, I would have been like, okay, no, goodbye. Like, it was bothering me so much how often he brought it up. And I was like, is this all that matters to you? Because, like, for me, that's, like, obviously the furthest thing from my mind. So I'm like, I don't understand. I don't know. I had trouble with that.
There were times where I felt like Reza wasn't even really that important to Art. It was more of like the physical act of having a boyfriend and being able to have sex
with him. Yeah.
He actually really genuinely had connections with. I feel like it was more about the experience as opposed to the person. And I liked Reza too much for him to go through that. That made me sad.
But I do think, again, it like kind of stems back to like being 17 and just being
my God,
this person is the one for me because they're the only one there. But like, you're like, oh my God, we're meant to be together because you, me, same place, same time. There's no way that this isn't fate. And then like, basically, anyway, thanks for making me forget everything I was trying to say. Hold on. It was basically like assigning like ideals that you have to a person when that's just not who they are at all. Which is why it was really just like, oh my God, I never had a boyfriend before because nobody else is out, so I could finally do that. Yeah. And then it just seemed like, okay, here we are, we're together.
Can we talk about Judy
so much?
Yeah.
Amanda's like, okay.
Please. Judy's the worst.
Oh my God.
I've been sitting here thinking about Judy for like the past 2 minutes, and I'm like, I'm still angry about it. No.
Literally, the last thing that Amanda heard was "Let's Bone Boys," and then she was like, "But I hate Judy though."
Yeah, I didn't like Judy.
I hated the way she reacted so much. Like, I don't even have words to express how much that would not be my reaction. So I could not relate to her in any way. Like, I was just like, girl, I thought your best. Oh my God, no.
Like, I just didn't understand. I understand her being upset, obviously, after she finds out, like, Reza didn't actually like her. Like, I understand, but I didn't understand why she was so mad at Art. Like, I don't know what he did. Like,
why is she mad at Reza? What do you mean? He does like you. He was, oh my God. He liked her, but like...
Yeah.
I think it stemmed from the fact that they were so close. Like, Judy had been with Reza for like a few months, but she had known Art, and Art knew how close she had felt with Reza. And I think that's why, because when you're, like, again, it stems from being 17. Like, when you're with somebody and then your best friend, it's like you kind of forget about that person and you're like, but you're my best friend. Like, why would you do this? And then I think it all came out in a very bad way anyway. Like, I think had the explosion included Reza, it would have been a little more realistic. but it just kind of came out with Judy and Art, and I did not like Art's reaction either, though.
What was Art's reaction?
Yeah, I don't remember.
No, because he was just like, yeah, like, I know you really like this person, but like, I'm gay, and like, he's gay, and therefore,
Oh yeah.
like, sorry, his feelings don't matter. Like, I don't know, he just pissed me off.
Yeah, I was basically on Reza's side the entire time. Like, I understood Judy being mad at Art. Like, that's completely valid. It was just like the way she reacted to Reza that pissed me off. Art, I don't really care. I was like, yeah, whatever.
Okay.
But but what did Art do that was wrong? Like, that's what I didn't really understand.
What do you mean, what did he do? He let her be bamboozled. He knew the whole entire time that Reza, they had like a secret language, and he knew, and he literally knew, and he didn't even tell her like that he suspected. He didn't tell her like, oh, I kind of think maybe, you know.
Yeah, I just feel like I just kept thinking like, well, it's not his place to talk about like someone else's sexuality, so like I know they're best friends.
Also, I feel like Art would totally do that if it wasn't someone who's into Judy. Like if it was a random person who joined, like who was a new kid in class, and he'd be like, "Oh my god, I definitely think that guy's gay."
Blessing.
He definitely seems like the kind of person who would just talk and like gossip and stuff like that. But like remember, like he gave him a flower, and they like kind of like touched hands at one point, and they were like, "Oh my god, ooh." And
yeah,
then
that's what Art did wrong. Is he did all of this like.
But was that after they started dating?
This was after he already knew Judy liked Reza.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
And
Judy was like, "Oh my god, did you see that new guy? He looks like a prince," which is always what people say about anybody who's not white and like kind of brown. And they're just like, "He looks like a foreign prince. He's amazing." So then he was like, "Oh my god, you should totally go for it." But then on the way, they lied because Judy had called Reza's house and they were like, "Oh yeah, Art came to pick him up." And then when they got there, then Art was like, "You should go ahead of me and then I'll come later." Or like he was like, "I'll go ahead and you come a little bit later so it doesn't look like we came together because I don't want it to be weird." And then Judy answered the door like, "Oh, where's Reza?" And he was like, "What do you mean?" And it was like, "Well, I called and apparently you picked him up." And it's like, "No, I just got my backpack."
There were all these little things that Art did like during the span of like when he knew that Judy really liked Reza, and then even when they had started dating, like all of these little things, like it went away a little bit for a while, like when they had started actually dating, but then like it started coming back again, and there were all these things where it's just like how can you even be like a best friend and do that to your best friend? Like I would be so angry at my best friend if they did that. I would actually like I'd throw hands, but like with words. I'm not a violent person. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't think like he did her dirty, but I agree with Casey. Like she definitely definitely was.
Agree with this.
But also I'm a white woman, and therefore I know what's going on in the world in terms of oppression. And it's like you're like this far from the top of being like at like the best of the best, like
you're like a notch down,
privileged, like
to everybody
calm down, please.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But that's also why I really thought this book was good, because it was like three people who are all kind of problematic and all have their own problems, and they're all experiencing the same. Okay, Casey, they're all experiencing like the same inciting event, but three different kinds of pain.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought it worked really well, because it was like if everybody was like, "Hey, I'm going to communicate with you the entire time and I acknowledge my privilege," I'd be like, "This is so unrealistic. Like this is a terrible book. This doesn't actually fit." But the fact they were acting this way, I was like, I'm upset, but this is realistic. Like, good job.
Also the fact that it was like 1989 and 1990, where it's just like we didn't really have those well, I mean, I wasn't alive, but people didn't really have the conversation of like, oh, like I'm privileged, you know, like they didn't really think of themselves like that, or like people they knew like that. There were just people and everybody had problems, but everybody's problems were somehow worse than everybody else's. And it's just like they didn't really, I don't think there were a lot of conversations based around like being more privileged and having more opportunities. But now we see that in day-to-day life, and we're able to discuss it. And I think that's another part about why this book was so great now, like being able to see, you know, we have come a long way, but there's still definitely a long way to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's very true, because if we think about it today, like, we generally, at least we try, or maybe we act this way, but we try to have generally like more voices weighing in on something before we make a decision about whatever's happening. But, you know, back then it speaks to like how tiny that voice was compared to everyone else's, because they were literally protests that were like, you're killing us. We need medicine. The government has to do something. We are dying. And it wasn't like, well, 1 out of every 10, that it was like everybody was like, hey, I have 300 dead friends because you guys aren't doing anything. And it was just so common all the time. And the fact that they had to protest and still nothing was happening for the longest time speaks to how little people really listen to those voices, because, you know, like, we now live not in like a post racism world. We don't live in that world, but we live like a little bit further away from than we did in the 80s. And that's just like base level racism or base level sexism, base level homophobia. And of course there are so many little intricacies that come from that, especially for more like intersectional things with, like, you know, Reza is not white and he's gay and he's closeted, and like there's so many problems that he had that nobody else in the story would have been able to understand whatsoever. And he was obviously like I mean, if you want to play like oppression Olympics, that he would be the most oppressed person in the room at that time. But he was also so new to that scene, and there were probably so many of the drag queens that they met who were also like, you know, maybe they were more Americanized, but they were still like, I have all these problems, and the answer is to like either embrace it or throw it away, and like, who knows? And like each person there had probably their own history of pain or whatever, but we only really get to see it through those 3 different people's eyes, and each one is literally like approaching it from like, I'm the most depressed, I'm having the most problems, but they're not.
It was so funny though, because I found that Reza was the least like that. He was just like, he was so supportive of everybody. He was constantly thinking about other people's problems, whereas, you know, Judy and Art were focusing more on themselves. And I feel like that's very realistic. You know, like the more oppressed people in this story were definitely the ones that had the most empathy and the most understanding toward the less oppressed, but more, what's the word? Vocal, thank you very much. About their struggles. And so I loved Reza. I thought he was a great character, like genuinely. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting.
Reza, I feel like this is unpopular, but it took a while for him to warm up to me. Like, at first, I I had such a hard time with him because I like completely like empathized and appreciated his situation, but at the same time, like, he just made me so stressed, like, because I knew that the situation with him and Judy would not end well, and I was like, please, please. And then it didn't end well, and then I was like, oh god. But then I was like, okay, I love you now. But like once they broke up and everyone kind of like fought and then made up, and, you know, they went to see Madonna, then like all of them kind of grew more on me. It's like even Judy, even though I didn't love her by the end, but like like while they were together, her and Reza, like I was so anxious the whole time reading it, because I was like, this is it's not gonna go well. But
yeah, it was very much like an awkward sort of like vein of a coming of age story. Like, especially when she's like, I know that Reza thinks Madonna is hot, so I'm going to make Madonna clothes, and then I'm going to wear them while we have sex. And he was like, because she was like, you like it? And he was like, yes. Like,
yeah.
And she's like, it's from Madonna. And he's like, yes, I own all of her music now. Thank you. Like,
and there was another part where Judy like literally just put her hand on his crotch, like while they were making out to be like, are you feeling this?
That was also very uncomfortable.
And that was icky as well.
Yeah.
I did not appreciate that at
I
all.
can say that I don't think I'd ever do that. So
That's good. We have to go by Amanda's standards. She would never do this. So we know.
Man, I would never.
No, but like it was icky. Like I was like, no, honey.
And she was just like, she wasn't even really doing anything. She was just checking to see.
He's just like, do we have a
Okay.
policy?
if you have to check, you should know something's off already, right? Like,
Very true.
you're clearly looking for something at this point, and you're not getting the right response. So
Yeah, I mean, like the thing I felt so bad for was that like everyone was basically using Reza for whatever they wanted because like no one really seemed to know Reza, so they got mad at him really easy. And I was like, you don't even know him because everyone's just like, he's this beautiful princely man. I love the color of his skin. He's amazing. And I'm like, so you like brown men? Just say that because like you're like, I don't know anything about him. So every time he reacted a certain way, they would get upset and he would have to apologize for not fitting this like weird mold that they wanted him for. And every time it was just like, well, I have a boyfriend now. So like now he's supposed to do A, B, C, D all the way to Z with me. And whenever Reza was like, okay, I guess so. It was just like such an uncomfortable thing that even if you weren't in Reza's head, you didn't know anything about him. If we were just following like Judy's story or just Art's story, you'd still be like, hey, is this guy okay with all this stuff you're doing? Because it doesn't seem like he's into any of it. Like
Literally the whole book.
Yeah.
The whole book was just Reza being really uncomfortable.
yeah.
I felt so bad for him.
Yeah.
Oh my
I
god.
thought of another reason why I don't like Judy. When she goes to that party and she starts making out with his stepbrother.
His stepbrother,
And I was like, he abused your best friend and your friend / ex-boyfriend. And then she tells Art, and I was like, oh, Art's gonna be so mad. And he was like, oh, good for you. And I was like, what?
I was like, where did that plot thread go? I thought he literally bullied you.
I hated this because he like, okay. As a plus size person, I've had my share of bullies and stuff throughout the years. And then I have had a couple of them reach out to me as I got older and try to like take me on dates and all this stuff. And like, there wasn't a single ounce of, yeah, let's do that. It was always just like, I hate you. You made my life miserable and you bullied me and my best friends. So bye. But she was just like, yeah, it's chill. Like he says, you know, all the slurs, every slur.
He said every slur that he knew, and she was like, I want to make out with you so bad right
He
now.
was like, let's go. And then he was like, yeah, I, you know, like I've always found you really hot. It's like, okay. Like make it make sense. And then she was like, this is perfect. I was like, Judy, sweetie.
I was like,
yeah.
this is a small town, and you're gonna graduate in a year.
Like do better. Do better. That pissed me off so much because I like I didn't hate Judy. Like I liked Judy throughout the whole book, and then she did that, and I was like, girl,
No.
like I still like you, but you got issues. You got like a lot of issues to work through. So.
And then they tried to like paint the stepbrother as like, oh, I'm not such a bad guy. I just like hang out with those guys. And I was like,
no.
That was weird. I didn't think that part was necessary at all.
Yeah.
that's also not how it works. You don't just hang out with a bunch of molded oranges and not get moldy. You know what I'm saying? Like there's problems with you if you're hanging out with the wrong people.
that's a perfect analogy.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, I loved the sister of
Yeah.
Yes,
Reza.
I forgot.
I did not like how they had sex in her apartment though, and she was just like,
That
"Yes,
was very
go
weird.
in my bed."
I liked that.
No, because she was literally like, "Here's my bed. Use it for whatever."
Oh yeah, that's what
I would
sisters
like.
do.
How
That's
did she
what we're
sleep
here
there? I
for.
don't know.
I would have literally burned my sheets. I would have been like, "Okay, bye." Like considering,
Oh.
like, frig.
You don't know what's on there.
No. Oh my god.
It was weird because it was just like Anybody here have siblings? I know some people.
Yes, and I would do it. I would let them use my room. Like, I don't know.
Your bed that you sleep in?
Yes.
The bed that you just had sex in?
If they came to me and said, I need this, you know, we haven't, you know, it's been a while.
I'd pay for a hotel. You know, I'd be a really nice sibling if I had one and pay for a hotel. But I couldn't.
Maybe that would be the first option. But if they like really couldn't,
why couldn't they? Like, what's
Why
wrong with the hotel?
The Holiday Inn is all booked?
Like,
Why?
what is so important that they have to do it in your bed specifically? Like, you know, I would lose my mind. Like, I had a girl who lived with me last year. Like, she used some of my pillowcases, and those were just pillowcases.
She was the worst.
And I was like, I'm gonna get rid of these now.
what?
So I was like,
I don't blame you.
Like, I can't. Anybody know?
I'll share anything. I'll like share my toothbrush. Like, I don't even care.
Amanda, you don't have to do that. Nobody.
Oh my god.
Literally.
Rachel's like, nobody asked to use that though.
I'm like, Amanda's like, I will get my toothbrush right now, and I'm like, literally for $1. Like, you
Like,
don't.
literally just
give
walk
them-
to whatever dollar store or quick store there is. Like,
There's no reason to do any of this.
I would just not brush my teeth.
Yeah,
So
like one
literally
night I'm
having
gonna kill
good
you.
finger.
Darren, get your stanky ass out of here.
You have a perfectly good finger and some toothpaste. You don't need to use someone else's toothbrush.
facts.
Oh.
It's
Facts.
better than.
We're learning a lot about each other right now. And part of it I'm not loving.
I don't think we needed to learn any of this, but
No, it was definitely worth it. I've enjoyed it.
anyway, I also would not let my sibling get some in my bed. No. Also because her boyfriend was a super rich DJ or something. Suppose or like he was a well-off DJ, and she was like, I live with him now. And then Reza just like called her and was like, can I have sex in your apartment? And she was like, oh my god, yes. Like, there was no conversation at all.
She was like, of course, oh my god, we're going on a date night. Let's leave.
Yeah, and her boyfriend was like, what? And she was like, he wants to have sex in our bed. And he was like, oh, okay. Like, there's just no thoughts, head empty. I was like, this man is so high. You can't talk to him right now and actually expect him to give feedback about anything you're saying.
I don't think I would even let like people who aren't related to me like use my bed. Like, nobody for that. Like, you could be my best friend, and I would be like, go to a hotel, buy a hotel room. I will buy you a hotel room. I will buy you sheets. I will do whatever, but just don't come near my bed. I will have to hurt you.
Look, if
I
my
was
friend
the
was
same
like,
way.
I really want to go to sleep, like, I'm so tired, I need to go to sleep, I'd be like, okay, you can use my bed. But there are juices involved in the other activity, and I'm not doing that.
Not
You're
the
gagging.
I don't like it.
I mean, even when I was a child, like sleepovers would stress me out a little bit because in the morning immediately I would have to wash my sheets. I did not like having another person in my bed. So I can't imagine.
Like, I would definitely let people sleep in my bed that need to. Like, I've definitely
Yeah.
I've shared beds, and like that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, anything else, anything that revolves removal.
There is a physical activity and things I don't want to go to sleep in.
Ew.
I sit there.
You guys lived a different life than me in college.
Apparently. Oh my god.
But that's great. Like, live your life. Like, we have differences.
I
and
once slept on a duct taped couch
Oh.
with like
What?
lots of disgusting.
One of my
things.
roommates freshman year didn't change her sheets the entire year that we lived together.
Okay, how did you live with this person?
I don't know. I wanted to die. I was in a forced
That's really
school.
icky.
I transferred schools. I was so traumatized.
That's so icky. Oh my
And
god.
her and her boyfriend slept in there together all the time.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Stop. It's so gross.
That's
No,
so
you're
disturbing.
gross.
There are juices. Why did you do that?
I hate it here.
I wash my sheets like every 3 days.
That seems like more than I do. But
I think I do mine once a week.
mine are like about
That's-
once
I think once a week is
week.
pretty standard.
I have no idea because my mom does it.
Well, then you definitely don't want anyone doing anything in your bed.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Yeah, especially not in my house.
In my home. No.
Oh my god. That was a conversation.
Does anyone have any more thoughts about the book?
I can't think of anything else now.
Okay, wait.
Oh my god.
I have a thing about the end of the book.
Oh, so do I.
Yes. So, I mean, what do we think? Because I feel like this book did like time skips very quickly without really like letting you process what happened. Because they would be like, this thing happened. Okay, it's 6 months later. Now this is what's going on. Okay, now we've been dating for 5 months. And it's like, oh, okay, all right. Here's what's going on.
Oh.
No.
Oh.
Manny felt disrespected and left.
He's like, hold on,
I'll
guys.
keep my juices.
Oh, God.
Oh no.
Well, on that note,
Heck.
I do remember the ending being the reason why I didn't give this book 5 stars. Just because I remember it making me angry and really sad, and like I'm like, yeah, but I don't get that.
I just didn't like. I understood why Art wanted to move away, but I didn't understand why he didn't like at least wait for Reza because they seemed so like obsessed with each other.
Yeah, like why not just try and like make it work? But
Yeah, and then I was like, okay, well he'll leave, and then I'm sure like he'll come back and they'll get back together. And then it was like 20 years later, or whatever, and like it was like Reza and his husband, and I was like, his husband.
I don't like that though.
I loved that.
I mean, I think it was realistic, but it definitely hurt
Yeah.
me.
I like it because it's like so few high school relationships actually like work out long term. Like even when you think like, oh, this person's the one.
Yeah, but like this is a book. I want it to work out.
Yeah.
I know, but the story was so realistic on like everything
Yeah.
else. I feel like
Yeah.
it would have cheaped out like the whole story.
Well,
Yeah.
and they weren't like a super good match.
They were
Yeah.
not.
You
And
know.
also, like everything we've just been saying the entire show, where it was like, "This is problematic. I don't like this person."
I know.
And it's like,
I
did I
thought
want
they
this
would-
match to work out, or was I just like lured with a false sense of illusion because this is a book and there's two people who are dating?
Listen,
It's that one.
I'm a simple gal. I just wanted them to be together.
Oh.
Yeah.
I liked the ending a lot. Like they did skip like really aggressively, and I was just like,
Yeah.
where am I? Like,
Yeah.
what year am I in? Like, what is happening? But I don't know. I liked that. I kind of kept thinking about it as like, oh yeah, like time flies. You know, there's life.
I mean, it does, but Adif Nazeeman did not have to do that to us.
Yeah, he did not. But I don't know. It worked really well for me. But I definitely see where it wouldn't work for some people.
Does this
I
author
agree
have
with
any
you.
more books?
Wait, what?
Does this author have any more books?
That's a good question.
I feel like
I thought this was his debut.
I don't.
Yeah,
I feel
I'm
like
pretty sure this was a debut.
I think it is.
I will Google it really quick.
No, he has more.
Oh.
He has the Authentics. This was definitely not a debut.
I will not
Same
know.
He has a book called The Authentics. He has a book called The Walk-in Closet. And he has a book coming out in 2022.
Never mind.
I had no idea my cat was behind me, and I kept feeling something moving. I was like, what is that?
This is the only time Pepper hasn't like actively tried to bother me while I'm doing something like semi-important. Like every time I will do anything, he'll be like, "Hello, mother. I have come." And it's just like, okay.
Here I am.
But this is the first time where he's just like, "I'll let you be with your friends. This is cool. I'll stay over here." I appreciate it.
Aw. Oh.
She's walking away.
Do we have any like final thoughts about the book? Or
Great pick.
Yes.
thank you. I'm very glad that I picked this one.
Oh wow.
For sure.
Did anybody cry?
Yes.
Yeah. I know when I read it, I was destroyed.
I was crying at work today, and it was not a fun time. There were tears on my keyboard. I was like,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I read it when I was working too. I was in a hotel room all alone by myself, sobbing to this book.
Oh,
I was
Rachel's
crying
like, I don't know
when-
what tears are.
the history thing.
I
I
was
also
like, that's
cried.
nice for
You know
you
that
guys.
poetry scene where like they were talking about high school and how it does end. I had like a horrible high school experience, so I was crying that entire time. The entire time they were talking about how high school ends and it's not everything and it's not always gonna be this painful. I was just like,
I cried a lot with Steven. And then I read the rest of it in the same sitting, and so I just kind of kept crying. But like I think it was just like residual tears like coming from my experience with Steve, because like the ending didn't really make me cry, but like Steven's ending, I was just like, when he pulled out all of his jelly beans, I was like, I was like, I am done.
He ate them all.
He ate them all, and I was like,
Oh.
It's like, I mean, if you actually think about it, it probably didn't look as sad as it sounded because he had like 800 jelly beans. He was eating like one at a time. He was like,
he had 94.
George, and this one's Philip, and this, and like he like named every jelly bean, and he ate so many, and everyone was just like, "Yep, okay." And like they were like, "Nurse, is he allowed to do this?"
Wasn't he at home when he did that?
I thought he was in the hospital.
No, he was at home.
Was he?
Yeah.
so,
Maybe I don't cry because I never know what's going on. That could be why.
Yeah, because he was at home and he was like, "Bring me the jelly beans," and we were like, like that's when my heart like hurt.
Yeah. I just
Oh,
like,
maybe
I was getting all emotional because he died, and I was like, oh my god. And then the next chapter was like 2 weeks later, and blah blah blah. And I was like, wait, what? Like, wait, I need to sit in this.
Well, the next chapter was like, "Hey, it's Bone Town time."
Yeah, I definitely stopped crying in that. I was just kind of like,
You're just like, is that your sister's bed?
Sasha was like, "I'm crying so much," and then the next chapter, the tears went back in. Like,
it's like in Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs too. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
yes,
The police officer's like, and he sniffs it back up into his eyeball. That's what happened to me. Like all tears went away.
They were just absorbed.
Oh my god.
Rachel, do you know what your next pick is? Like, have we talked about that?
yes.
I feel like we should all go around and say like our next, 4 months worth of books, so that Jess has like an inside look at what we're doing.
Amanda, yours is just this month.
Yeah.
oh,
Not
God.
like each
You're
person 4 picks for
Yeah.
like the rest of their lives. Like,
Oh yeah, no, just
the next
person.
one.
Oh, okay. I was panicking a little bit. I was like, okay, what do I have? Let me see.
It's like, what pick?
But like, we didn't even do mine.
Wait, I'm gonna search for mine, but go ahead and announce.
Oh, Payback's a Witch is this month.
I bought it today, and I am obsessed with the cover.
It's literally
Obsessed.
stunning, and I think it will be stunning inside as well.
I do think so too.
Excited.
I'm really pumped about it.
I'm really excited.
Darian, what's yours?
Mine in November is The Lost Apothecary.
Yes,
Ooh.
okay. I
Still
remember.
looking. I'm still looking.
And
Hold on.
then-
Oh, I found it.
Oh.
I got it. Okay.
Miss Rachel.
Hello. Okay, I got it. Okay, in December, we're going to be reading Amanda's favorite Christmas book.
Oh
maybe.
yeah,
The 12 Dates of Christmas. Ooh.
it's good.
This is a very
I
polarized
can't wait to
book.
argue. I can't
Yeah,
wait.
that's why I picked it, because I was like, we got to get into the Christmas spirit and have
Me
a
and
good
Sasha had to
old-fashioned
pull
argument.
down Miss Holly Chase last year, so
Yeah,
Just
we
throw
literally
down.
held that book on our back.
we were like,
Thank you very
"Come
much.
on."
Oh my god. Yeah.
Oh my God. You're
So-
welcome.
My book for January is going to be The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. So yeah, in other words, get on getting those copies. We're gonna have a good time. The next 4 months are gonna have some interesting discussions, I feel like.
I'm
Especially December.
really looking forward to it for the December one.
I feel like the next four
Rachel,
books
I
in
just
December.
know Rachel is going to destroy it. Like I can
The
already
problem
feel
with Rachel is that she's
Just
like
because you said that,
so
she's
good.
gonna like it just to be spiteful.
Rachel, like I love it. No complaints at all.
I better love it because I bought this book and I never buy books. But I bought it because of your recommendation, Amanda. And then as soon as I bought it, everybody was like, I don't like this. And I was like,
Oh.
well, I better love it because I spent $12.39 on it. So.
I'm
Just the
surprised
fact
Darian
that
isn't making us read the new Josie Silver book.
Wait, what's the new Josie Silver book?
Listen,
I don't even know. I just scrolled right past.
it's not even a Christmas book, okay? And I don't think it comes out yet until next year. So
Wait, what's the next book?
I forget the name of it. Hold on.
I thought you were a Josie Silver stan.
I am, even though I've only read one book.
Lydia Bird is so bad.
Okay, but
So is this other one. I don't even remember what it's called.
The next one's called One Night on the Island.
Yeah.
Oh, that one looked interesting, kinda.
It comes out in February, and my next one is March.
Well, I shouldn't have given you the idea.
Thanks,
Sorry,
Bess.
guys.
You can be our guest.
Jess, you better come and be our guest, please.
Just as the permanent guest.
Yeah.
Also, this has nothing to do with the whiners, but I just read It Happened One Summer, and oh my god, I hated Brendan so much by the end.
I've never.
I'm leaving. Bye.
No, man, this face.
Where'd
She got something to say to this. Oh no.
Oh,
okay.
What was your
That was
November book,
awesome.
Darian?
What?
What's your book for November again?
The Lost Apothecary.
Oh yeah, okay.
She's back!
What?
Okay, I didn't like that book at all. Let me explain. No.
I still haven't watched Rachel's video and I'm scared.
Okay,
I
but
love
I have a
food stamps
sprint,
for you.
so I gotta blast real quick.
I am so sorry. I'm so behind on all of your videos.
Oh,
I have
I'm
my
all behind.
that's okay.
I have my like booktube bestie playlist.
Oh,
Booktube bestie, and it has like 50 videos in it, and I'm just like, I can't because I do homework until like 1 a.m. and then I'm like, I should probably go to bed, and then I'm like, but then you all post on the same day, and then I have like 16 more, and it just hurts my heart. I watched like 2 today, and I felt so accomplished. I was like,
no, Sasha is my ideal viewer because I only post like twice a month. So like only watching like 2 videos is like
ugh,
ideal.
I'm trying so hard.
That's okay.
All right, I'm gonna go to my sprints, but I will see y'all next time.
She's like, I've had enough. Bye.
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 I actually have to go pick Noah up from work. So if we don't have any final thoughts, he is just kind of sitting there being off right now. And he'll have to wait.
Oh,
It was like, no, go ahead, do your little internet show. I'll be over here on the curb waiting for you.
No, he locks up, so he can still he's
okay.
still in the building.
okay.
Like I wouldn't be that mean.
He's
But
just
he
like,
texted me, he was like, "Are you coming?" Like ... And I was like, "Did you not
He's like,
not
"Did you
follow
not
my
get the
channel?" Like,
whiners?
yeah, are you not
have your
watching us
notifications
live?
on?
Did you not get the notification that Sasha from the Redhead Reader is going live in 30 minutes?
Like, what if it's fake? Husband.
Hello?
0 out of 10 would not recommend.
Oh my god.
No, but like, anyways, fine.
Well, if he actually does follow your channel, he'll be like, what the fuck?
He does
Why are you talking about me?
he doesn't watch anything.
He's like, unsubscribe. Just like,
That would be so funny. Anyways, so I'll probably end the live now. But thank you guys for showing up, and Lisa, thank you for being like
Lisa. Oh,
the
in
person who shows up.
That's Jess.
The one
Yeah,
here.
just like that's just like
And thank you, Jess, for coming and joining us. And I'm sorry.
we're all unhinged in this one moment.
Oh my god.
Anyway,
I'm sorry you didn't remember anything. But I'm thankful that you were here.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
oh, wait, you were like, Jess, you want to join this? I know you read this book 3 years ago. Do you want to
Yeah.
come to the live show?
I was like, sure.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I literally just went on Goodreads and I was like, who's read this book?
Jess.
Oh, thank you.
Aw, thanks for noticing.
Oh my god. Okay.
Anyway, next month we're going to be doing Payback's a Witch, and it's going to be on Amanda's channel, so
I'm super
Be
excited
there.
about it. So subscribe to them. They're all in the description. Bye.
bye.